In this movie, we'll talk about the third method of getting Windows 10, buying the original install media and installing a fresh copy of Windows. There are a few reasons you might choose this method. If you're building a new computer from parts and you need to install the original operating system, you might do this. Another reason is if you're setting up a Boot Camp install on a Mac computer so that you can run Windows and Mac OS X on the same machine. Or if you're using a virtual machine application like Parallels or VMware Fusion to set up a new install on a VM. Let's start by looking at how you can buy the original install media for Windows 10. Now, if you are upgrading from a Windows 7 or Windows 8 computer, the upgrade is free, but the original install media does cost money. Store.microsoft.com is a good place to start. You can see here that there's some information about upgrading, but we want the original install media. So I'm going to go to this menu near the top. I'll click on Store, scroll down to Windows, and I see that there are two options, Windows Pro and Windows Home. Most users watching this course will simply want to choose the Home version. Everything that we use in this course will work in the Home version of Windows. Windows 10 Pro supports a few more professional features which you might use in a business or enterprise situation. Windows Pro installations are usually handled by a company's IT department, and Home installations are usually used by individual users. So I'm going to stick with the Home version here. Just be aware that Windows Home costs $119.99 and Windows 10 Pro costs $199.99. So I'm going to go to Windows 10 Home. And on this page, if I scroll down a bit here, you'll see that there are four options for purchasing. Now, the first option here just links back to information on upgrading, which we saw in a separate movie. Then you can buy a downloadable copy of Windows 10, a USB install drive in English, or a USB install drive in Spanish. In other parts of the world, you'll probably see other language options. Now, you actually can buy an install DVD from other retailers, but that's not a common option. Disk-based installation is not used very much these days. But you can find the install DVD at Amazon and some other retailers. Now, the USB install drive option is great if you want a physical drive that you can connect to a computer to install. But it is going to take some time for shipping, so you may have to wait a few days. Or you might be able to find the package in a local store. Now, if you want the install media immediately, then what you can do is buy the downloadable version and use that to create your own DVD disk or USB drive. Or if you're setting up a virtual machine setup with something like Parallels or VMware Fusion, then you can download an ISO file, which is what those systems need to install Windows. So just so we can see the process, let's get the downloadable version and use that to create an install disk on a USB stick. So I'm going to click on the download version. I want to make sure my quantity is set right. I only want one copy, and then I'll hit buy and download. From here, you'll need a Microsoft Online account, you'll set up your credit card information, and you'll go through the purchase process. Now, I've already purchased this, so I'm going to flip over to another page. This is my download history on the Microsoft Store. And when you buy the downloadable version of Windows, you'll come to a screen that looks pretty similar to this. And there will be a few important things that you'll see on that page. First, you'll see the product key, and you will need that to install Windows, so make sure you keep the product key handy. Then there'll be a download button, and I'll click on that. This takes me to the download page. And this page is actually different whether you access it on a Windows computer or a Mac. If you're accessing this on a Windows computer, it's going to give you download links for the Media Creation Tool, which is a little application that will download the install file and then help you copy that to either a DVD or a USB stick. You also have the option to simply download the ISO file, which is an image file of the install media, which you could use in a virtual machine application. If you access this page on a Macintosh computer, you'll simply have the option to download the ISO file. You will not have access to the Media Creation Tool. So the Media Creation Tool is going to be great here. This is going to let me copy this to a USB drive, which I can use to install Windows from. Now, I do need to have a blank USB drive or a DVD disk. If your USB drive has any files on it, those files will be erased, so make sure you start with a blank USB drive, and it has to have at least 4 gigabytes of storage space. So let's do this. I'm going to click on the download tool. I need the 64-bit version because I'm installing this on a computer with a 64-bit processor. You might need to do a little research to figure out which processor you have. So I'm going to click on 64-bit. It'll download the media creation tool. I'm going to hit save here. Okay, now that that's finished downloading, I can go to Open Folder to open up my Downloads folder. And here's the media creation tool that I just downloaded. I can double click on that to launch it. I'll click Yes here to open it up. From here, I have the option to either immediately start the upgrade process on the computer that I'm using now, or I can choose to create the installation media for another PC. That's what I want to do. I'll choose that and hit Next. I'm going to choose my language, English United States. I'm going to make sure I choose just Windows 10 Home version. And again, I'm going to have to hit this menu and make sure I set this to the 64-bit version. Then I'll hit Next. So from here, I have the option to either create a USB flash drive or to simply download the ISO file. If I had a DVD burner connected to this computer, I would also have the option to burn a DVD. Now, I've already gone through this process and I've already created my USB install media. So I'm going to cancel out of this. When I did this for real, it took about 20 minutes. You'll just need to follow through the prompts and it'll set up everything for you. And at a certain point, you'll need to connect your USB drive. And again, make sure that's a USB drive with 4 gigabytes of free space and be aware that it will be erased. But since I've already created that USB stick, I'm going to cancel this. Yes, I want to quit. I'll close this. And I want to show you what that USB media looks like. So I'm going to connect that to my computer. I'll open up File Explorer, and here is that USB stick. And it has a setup file right here. And this is exactly what it would look like if you bought the USB media from the Microsoft Store or whether you created it from the downloaded version. From here, you have two options. If you want to install a fresh copy of Windows on this computer, you can just double-click the setup application and go through the process here. You'll need to follow the prompts and go through the installation. At some point, you will be asked if you want to keep the files and applications on this computer or if you want to completely erase everything and do a clean install. The other option would be to take this install USB drive to the computer where you want to install Windows. Set that computer to boot from that USB drive and follow through the prompts to install from there. During this process, you will need to type in the product key that we saw a minute ago, so make sure you have that handy. And I'm going to stop here. Once you've followed the installation process, which can take some time, we'll be picking up in a separate movie and talking about how to set up a new computer for the first time. So be sure to go on to that movie after you finish the install process to continue with the setup of your fresh Windows installation.